Welcome back to KLM, the awareness movement for having kavanah for mitzvos, kavanah lemitzvos. Now, this whole topic of kavanah lemitzvos and KLM, I went public about several months ago. About a half a year ago I went public with this and started to try to spread awareness. And Baruch Hashem, I'm very excited that people are really excited about it. Really very, very excited. And I'm thankful to Hashem for that, but the question is, what's causing the excitement? Okay? Because what we're talking about, the main thing we're focusing on here is just before you do the mitzvah, to think, I'm doing the mitzvah, right? I'm doing this mitzvah, I'm doing it for Hashem. That one thing is very big. And I think this is the reason why people are so excited. Why? Because if you think about it, what does everybody want? Really, I think I can generalize here. Everyone would love to have wonderful relationships, number one, and be successful. I think I covered it, correct? Who doesn't want a wonderful relationship and to be successful? Okay? So now, the burning question, what makes a relationship wonderful? Okay? Say it like this. You're present and they're present, right? There's presence, right? That's why the phones can be a little bit of a challenge for relationships, right? But the thing is, there's presence, and I'd like to add this, responsiveness. When you're present for the other and when you're responsive to them, it makes for a great relationship. Okay? In comes kavanah lemitzvos with Hashem. Okay? Right now, we're doing the mitzvah of learning Torah. Okay? So let me ask you something. When were you commanded to learn Torah? When? Okay? So the answer is going to depend, right? If you were born religious, so when you hit 13, you're commanded, right? Hashem asks you to do the mitzvahs, right? Okay. Let's say you became religious later in life, or you converted. Okay. So that was when you were commanded. Okay. Let's say it's a mitzvah, like making a blessing, right? So perhaps when were you commanded? When you learned the Mishnah Berurah and you realize, oh, I'm supposed to make a blessing before I have a drink, right? You know when you're commanded? When were you commanded to learn Torah? This second Hashem commands you to do the mitzvah. Okay? So, if I just learn Torah, I'm listening to a Torah class and doing this, so when did I respond to Hashem? Okay? Was it, I made the decision a week or two ago, or when? So when you have kavanah, right? And let's do it right now. Hashem, you command me to learn Torah, so I'm doing this activity right now, this class. I'm learning Torah, kasher tziva Hashem, as you commanded me just now. How's the relationship when you're responding in the moment, and you're also thinking, wow, Hashem is present and wants me to be involved and respond to Him. You hear? So, do you hear this? Every time, and that'll explain, it's a very big deal in the halacha if you don't have kavanah mitzvahs. Let's say you were listening to shofar blow, a very, very big mitzvah. So if you did not have intention to listen to the shofar, you have to repeat it. Or the Kriya Shema, it has to be done again. The act was meaningless. There's some things that are b'diavad, etc. But the bottom line is, it's so important because it's the difference of being involved with Hashem right now or a long time ago. And what does it say about the relationship if it was a long time ago? It's old, You hear? So that's why it's so important. And that's why I think people are getting excited. They're saying, wow, I can make a very wonderful relationship with Hashem by really thinking before I do what He asks, that He's asking me and responding right now. Okay? That's one point. The other thing we said, what most people want, is to be successful. right? Everyone wants to be successful. However you define success, you want to be successful. So I'd like to suggest that one way you can know you're succeeding is by the way in which Hashem rewards you for what you do. Not necessarily saying that we're going to be motivated because of the reward, but still, Hashem's reward tells you a lot. So, in previous times, we made a blessing, right? We learned how to make a blessing, the mitzvahs in a blessing. So, let's say we have a glass of water here. Oh, by the way, I encourage those who are listening and watching to please get ready a glass of water. We're going to make a blessing, but more importantly, we're going to drink the water. Just stay tuned. But here, let's say you make a blessing on the water, because you know you're supposed to make a blessing. You make a blessing, right? But without intention for the mitzvah. Okay? Now you'll say to me, well, that's a rabbinic mitzvah. So I have two answers for you. One is, it seems like, according to Mishnah Berurah, all mitzvahs, even rabbinic commandments, require kavanah beforehand. And guess what? Every rabbinic commandment is a Torah commandment. Hashem says, do what the rabbis tell you, do what the Beis Din enacts, and don't rebel. Okay? So either way, there's kavanah that's required. Okay? So now, what's the difference between making that blessing without kavanah, the shame mitzvahs, making a blessing before drinking, okay? And yes, having the kavanah. All right? So we gave the following metaphor. I have a friend who's a diamond dealer, and he explained to me, the idea of a diamond and a rough. So a diamond is basically in a mineral called carbon. Okay? So you have carbon, and the carbon in there is a beautiful diamond ready to be cut. Okay? But the value of the carbon versus the cutting, sometimes there's 20 steps of finely chiseling and cutting it. Incredible difference in value. I mean, you hand the person carbon or you hand the person a diamond, there's going to be a different thing, right? So this is an attempted metaphor that I think is fairly reasonable. If you do a mitzvah without kavanah, it's like you're presenting Shem carbon, right? But when you have intention, okay, and there's a lot of facets to it, but still, when you have intention, it's a chiseled diamond, okay? So if you just add this, like before we make the blessing, I have in mind the mitzvah to make a blessing before I drink, right? You just chisel the diamond, okay? And we also discussed before about making a blessing. This is a worthwhile review, I think. These rabbinic commandments have a lot of Torah commandments embedded in them, especially a blessing. When you make a blessing and you say, Baruch atah, blessed are you, who are you speaking to? You're speaking to Hashem. And when you're conscious that you're speaking to Hashem, that's a mitzvah d'oraisa. It's the first commandment of Anochi, of having emunah in Hashem, right? Then when you say Hashem Elokeinu, and you have in mind His names, right? Adonai Kol for Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Elokeinu, Takif, Bal Yehos. When you think of His names, guess what mitzvah that is? Torah commandment, Yiras Hashem, because you're having reverence for Hashem's name. Look at all that's going on. I'm in the middle of the sentence. Melech HaOlam, right? King of the world? That's an insult. Do you mean this little Earth ball? The 9 planets, the solar system, the galaxies, the spiritual worlds. He's king over all of that. That's also a mitzvah of Yiras Hashem, because you're tapping into Hashem's exaltedness. You're in awe. When you're in awe of Hashem, you fulfill the mitzvah d'oraisa of fear of Hashem, right? And then finally, She'al Kol Niyeh B'Vro. It's an awesome idea too. It's also fear, but also you're thanking Hashem, and that's also a commandment. Okay, rich, right? So when you make that blessing and you add these intentions, you're carving this incredible diamond. Okay? So now, let's say we're about to do this, okay? But let's say you have a glass of water and you did it. Baruch Hashem, right? The Shem mitzvah, making a bracha. I'm listening to the rabbis. I'm emunah in Hashem, fear of Hashem, thanking Hashem, right? Boom, boom, boom. Then you drink. Down the hatch. Now it's your turn, right? Now I get to enjoy. Are you kidding? There's so much more available. The drinking is incredible. It's another thing. We talked about carbon to a chiseled diamond. The drinking is alchemy. Now, everybody's probably heard of alchemy. You've heard that? So alchemy was kind of a bogus science. They tried, okay? It was a theory that you could take base metals and you could turn them into precious metals, okay? Let's take tin. Tin's a pretty copper tin, and you could turn it into gold. I looked up, I used to think that the most valuable mineral, what do you think the most valuable mineral or stone, whatever? So I used to think it was platinum. Like platinum is more valuable than gold. But now it's called palladium, okay? I'm not so familiar, but here's the thing. They couldn't do it physically. Spiritually, alchemy works. You have to realize something. There is so much going on when you drink a glass of water, right? Now, if you just drink that glass of water and your kavanah stopped at the blessing, okay, you've got a lot awaiting you in the world to come and blessing in this world, etc. But what about the drinking? It's either just, H2O, and it goes into your system and eventually out of your system, and zeo, or it's palladium, okay? You can convert it. The actual act of drinking, so many of the mundane activities are mind-bogglingly spiritual and filled with mitzvahs, okay? And we're going to focus on, particularly in drinking water, but what I want to focus on right now, eating, drinking, sleeping, okay? I would call these activities, right? They're either activities that are for pleasure or self-care, okay? And self-care in our generation, with a lot of people, is lacking, okay? There's this one guy, I think he summarized, he says, most people are either dehydrated, sleep deprived, stressed, or overweight, or all of the above, right? And he says, who are you going to blame? Whose fault that you're dehydrated or you're sleep deprived? Okay, so self-care is important, period, right? And I think it's a challenge. Sleep, you know? I remember years ago, a doctor told me, and it's been borne out. I mean, I heard this 20 years ago in the mikveh. This one doctor said to me, he says, do you know that most illnesses are due to sleep deprivation? He goes, the worst illnesses. And he also, it says like, if a person like operating on, let's say, they say below 7 or for sure below 6 hours of sleep, it's like you're like a drunk driver. That's your consciousness, right? So these issues I think are anyhow important, but I want to show you that there's so many mitzvahs in caring for yourself, all right? And tonight we're going to practice. I encourage you, let's get a glass of water, okay, those of you who are listening, or get a fruit, you know, get a vegetable, get something healthy. Because I want to show you how many mitzvahs are involved with taking care of yourself. So let's illustrate. Here we go. This is not a Rembrandt. This is not a Van Gogh. I suggest it's much more valuable. Because you see here, there's a glass of water right here. And this glass of water, you see the balloons, right? So I mentioned right here 5 mitzvahs, right? Let's say 5 balloons, right? Now imagine a balloon that's a helium balloon that's going up to the sky, but it's unbelievable level of helium. And it keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher and out of this universe. And it goes and it transmutates into a mitzvah, which the Zohar says are mitzvahs stand before Hashem in a supernal realm, and they have a crown on their heads. And they say, Aaron made me. Ploni, Benjamin made me. Right? It's incredible. So I want to show you we're focused on self-care. Water is indisputably healthy and important, right? Hydrating, but if you have a fruit or vegetable, this will work great. So let's look on the left. The first mitzvah is v'nishmartem ma'od l'nafshoseichem. It says in the Torah in Parshas V'eschanan, Hashem commands us you should take very good care of yourself, right? So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch explains, anything you do for your health is fulfilling this commandment of taking very good care of yourself. But let's understand this commandment a little more deeply. In what context is this said? It's in context of the commandment to not forget Har Sinai, the revelation of Sinai. In other words, as Moshe was preparing everybody for the revelation, we get this commandment, take very good care of yourselves. Why? What's the link between taking good care of your health and the Sinai revelation? Says the Rambam, it's because, what did Hashem do before Sinai? Were there any blind people at Har Sinai? No. He healed the blind. He healed the deaf. He healed everybody. He gave everybody a refuah shlema. Because the Rambam explains, to the degree that you're not feeling well and you're not healthy and all your senses are not working, less revelation of Hashem, less ability to perceive and experience Hashem. So isn't that huge? Do you realize if you're half asleep, how much are you integrating Torah? If you're sleep deprived, how much Torah are you getting? If you're dehydrated, right? How much are you going to be able to experience Hashem? So the first mitzvah, when we have a glass of water, when we take care of our health, is to be very careful with our health, because it's very important for us to experience the revelation of Hashem. Mitzvah number 1. Okay? I'm now going to go to the top balloon, if you will. The next mitzvah, when you have a glass of water, you should have in mind this. V'yahavta es Hashem b'chol levavecha. You should love Hashem with all of your hearts. Really, it needs an S here. What does it mean? How many hearts do you have? The answer is 2, if you will. You have a Yetzer Tov, an inclination for good, and you have a Yetzer Hara, an inclination, it says for evil, but the commentators explain you have physical drives. Your physical drives come from that part of your heart, the Yetzer Hara, right? So when you have a glass of water, you can be expressing Avas Hashem, love of Hashem, with your Yetzer Hara, with your physicality, with your physical drives. Okay? Now we understand, when you have water, when you do something to make yourself, you're obviously strengthening yourself, and you can serve Hashem. But why is that Avas Hashem? Why is that loving Hashem? Okay? I think the answer is like this. We said, if you want a wonderful relationship, right? If you love someone, you'll be responsive, right? You respond to them and their requests. So I like giving this example. Let's say your wife wants to have a conversation with you, an important conversation, and you're exhausted or you're hungry. So are you going to be present? Are you going to be able to respond well? No. So you say, honey, I really want to give you my full heart and attention. Can I just take a nap for a minute? So why are you taking the nap? It's for her, right? You want to be there for her. So when we take care of ourselves, when we eat and drink, right, to be ready to Hashem's every request, we're showing love. We're drinking for Him, not just for ourselves. So that's a second mitzvah of self-care. You're showing love because you're positioning yourself to do what the one you love wants. Next, and this next one is very important actually for how you treat other people. Okay, it's a surprise, I think. So let's look to the right. When you have this glass of water, you're also fulfilling the following mitzvah. It says in Mishlei, Gomel lenafsho ish chesed. Someone who bestows upon himself, he does good for himself, he does like he takes care of himself, He's a kind person. That's what it says. Now, by the way, this is brought down the Sefer Haredim. This is a Divrei Kabbalah, means a strong rabbinic commandment to be kind to yourself. And I want to explain this a little more because it's so beautiful and so important. Okay? I first heard this from a Talmud of Rabbi KLM, a Dr. Rosmarin, a Torah psychiatrist, and they developed a whole scheme. And they said it like this: relationships either move towards connection or disconnection, right? And the first relationship you have to work on is with yourself, okay? Now look how Hashem set this up. This is so beautiful. You have a soul, and your soul is supposed to have a parental care and love for the body. It's such a beautiful thing. In other words, what's the heart of kindness? Is you pay attention to what someone needs, and then you try to provide their needs. That's loving, that's kind, right? So that's the job of your soul, is to say, I noticed, you're speaking to your body, I notice you seem a little parched. Maybe you would like a glass of water. So when you have that, first of all, it's beautiful. You don't have to be selfish. You can eat and drink and still be selfless, because you're taking care of the other, your body. Your soul's taking care of your body, right? So what's beautiful about that is you're training yourself for Bein Adam L'Chaver. You're training yourself to be caring about others. Now, Rabbeinu Yonah says this on the Mishlei. He says like this: how you treat yourself is how you treat others. If you're neglectful with your own self, you're going to be callous and insensitive with others. It's so important. You hear this? It says on the other side of that Mishlei, it says, Gemela Nasho is Ish Hesed. You bestow good, you're kind. It says, but someone who is like hurts his flesh is a cruel person in general. They're not just cruel, neglectful of themselves, they're going to be cruel to others, God forbid. Super important. One glass of water, one balloon goes up because you're taking care of yourself and you're readying yourself for the revelation of Hashem. Another balloon goes high in the heavens because you're showing Hashem you love Him. I'm going to just get myself ready for you to do whatever you want because I love you, Hashem. The next one says, I'm going to take care of this body you gave to me like it's my child. I'm going to be duches. I'm going to look for what it needs and give it. What a beautiful thing. And this is all in the drink. We had 4 mitzvahs when you made the blessing. But what about the drink? It's not just down the hatch. It's up to the heavens. It's up to the heavens. Okay? And the beautiful thing is this, is there's another mitzvah. We're almost done here. But those are the keys I want to focus on again. Taking care of yourself so you can perceive Hashem. Showing your love towards Hashem, and training yourself to be a caring person about everyone by being caring for yourself. 2 other ones. It says also, what if you make the healthy choice instead of having like Coke, or a bag, 3 bags of potato chips? Says the Ramban, Kadoshim, you're holy. When you separate, when you avoid indulgence and you just take what you need, or you avoid that, you're becoming holy, because a spiritual being is not being drawn in and down by the physical. The more in control of yourself and the less indulgent you are, the more you're like an angel as opposed to an animal, right? So when you have a glass of water instead of like a whole bottle of Coke, you could have that in mind too, okay? And finally, and this really sums it all up, I came with a little mnemonic for this. TLC, right? Everyone knows what TLC is. Tender, loving care, right? So, T, take care of yourself, the Nishmartem. L, love Hashem. C, do kindness, Chesed, to yourself. If you do TLC, you will have K. You will know Hashem in all your ways. It's also in Mishlei. It's also Divrei Kabbalah. It's in the Shulchan Aruch. This is brought down. Reish Lamed Aleph. It says, eat, drink, sleep, rest, relax, enjoy everything. Do it for Hashem, and you'll know Hashem. You get an awareness and intimacy. And the Sforno says Devekus, attachment to Hashem in everything you do. So you hear this? This is all the drink. We had the blessing, and now we have the drink. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I want everyone to try this. And what I'm going to do is, if anyone's interested, and I encourage you to be interested, send me and contact me on the link, or send me the thing, and we'll send you a PDF of this poster. Because I tell you, every time I drink, and just look at this with intention, I just have in mind these mitzvahs, but I don't even have to speak it. As I'm drinking, I'm saying, yes, Hashem, I have in mind your mitzvah right now, of Nishmartim, Avos Hashem, etc. It's unbelievable. You're sending worlds up, okay? So let's just set this up. Okay, everyone. Now we're going to put this drinking or this eating into eternal action. So what all I want you to do, and this is so easy but so profound what you'll accomplish, is as you're drinking, right, maybe make a blessing. And now that you've made a blessing, pick up your water or your food and just let your eyes circle around this poster. Perhaps start from the left for the English speakers. And I want you, as you look, just have in mind, I have in mind Hashem, Nishmartim, taking care of myself. By drinking this for your sake, I have in mind knowing you in all your ways. And as I drink this, I have in mind loving you with my physicality and doing kindness to my body. I have in mind a mitzvah of kindness to myself. And finally, by drinking or eating something healthy, I'm moving towards the kedusha or holiness of an angel as opposed to the baseness of an animal. So all you have to do is, while you're drinking, every time, just look at this poster and let it sink in and let it soar to the heavens.
Shama Shir Shir